What's going on, everybody? A fantastically exciting welcome back to Pro Be Pro. We are on our own now, which also means that I am the producer and I am not good at producing just yet. We'll get there. But for the time being, you're going to look at this very bland Masters-ish green background, and we are just going to use that and run with it. Look, we've been trying to get this going. Like I said, I'm not good at this, so this is the best we got this week. But the content, the discussion, hopefully makes up for the lack of production value here. Justin, let me kick it to you. Obviously, we are thrilled to get back to it. But for those who don't know us, why don't you tell the story of how we met and why we can provide a little bit of a unique kind of perspective on this golf analysis that we're going to do.
Yeah, first of all, it's awesome to be back. This was a long time coming, kind of happened and then kind of went away, and now we're back again. So Alex and I met at PGA Tour Q School or PGA Tour Canada Q School in 2016. He was a punk kid. I was the old man. I happened to get through that year, but we stayed in touch for a long time. We both knew that we kind of liked the golf, DFS, gambling world. Interesting perspective. We talked about this through Twitter Messenger forever about doing something. Finally, the opportunity arose. We did it for a while. We have a great time. We try to give a unique perspective here on something that you're not going to hear anywhere else in the industry. We've been boots on the ground. We've actually lived a lot of this now, albeit nothing like playing at Augusta, but playing at a very high level. I played all of 2016 in Canada. I know, Alex, you've won the state open there. You've had some big pro accolades as well. You still play some. I run a business at home, but still play a ton of golf and still think that we can really provide some cool insights going forward here. We now that it's kind of our own deal, we can kind of get into more of the golf perspective, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to kind of talk through these golf tournaments, talk through different situations, different narratives that the industry loves, and whether there's merit to them or not. And we're also just going to try to make your viewing experience a little bit more enjoyable, just because you know a little bit more. And so we're going to get into the nitty gritty of Augusta this week. We're going to talk about the 12th hole. We're going to talk about why lefties have an advantage and whether that means you should just run lefty stacks in your DraftKings lineup, things like that. And we're also going to talk a lot about Rory. Brandel Chambly had a bunch of comments on why Rory potentially hasn't won at Augusta. I think there's merit to basically everything he said, but I also think that there's a major glaring reason why he hasn't won that Brandel did not touch on. So we'll get there as well. Justin, why don't we start with some course fit, though? Let's get right into it. We're going to try to keep these episodes short-ish so that you guys don't have too much to watch. But the course fit model this week is straightforward, but it's also super unique, and in particular for a major. So what we see in most major championships is a massive weight on driving distance. We do not see that here. And unlike most of the season, when we don't see a weight on driving distance, it's actually negative 21% this week, which for those of you new to the show, that means distance is 21% less predictive than usual at this golf course than in a traditional PGA Tour event or a standard PGA Tour event. So usually when we see a decreased weight like this on driving distance, it's because accuracy off the tee is super important. We have our own proprietary strokes gained driving accuracy metric over at FTN Fantasy. That's not the case this week either. Accuracy is also down 13%. So like a great example is TPC Sawgrass. You get this like a negative 30% weight on driving distance, then you get like 100% weight on driving accuracy. Both aspects of driving this week are down. Then you have approach play a little bit up, putting a little bit down, and this massive 117% weight on around the green play. It is a short game magician's paradise. Patrick Reed has won here because of that. Hideki Matsuyama put on one of the best short game performances as any golf tournament ever when he won his green jacket. I'll kick it to you here, Justin. What do you think the explanation is for why around the green play is so predictive? Because I think I've got one.
So there's so much that goes in here, and there's a unique fact that almost nobody knows about or understands. And unlike most places, Augusta doesn't have a ton of rough.
Mhm.
So chipping out of some kind of rough, as you guys probably, if you're a regular golfer, know that it can sometimes be easier, right? You don't have to worry about hitting it fat or sculling it near as much. They mow all of these greens away from the green every time.
All
They
the fairways
never,
away from the green.
they mow every fairway away from the green, every fringe, everywhere around it. Therefore, every lie is into the green. Anybody, Florida, Texas, chipping into the green is a huge, huge problem for most people. It also takes away a lot of the ability to putt from tight lies. I think that's why you got guys. That's why you have guys like Patrick Reed and Hideki that are so good. That being said, you still, I mean, Scotty Scheffler, way underrated short game,
Mhm.
right? I mean, there's a reason, you know, he practices in North Texas and works on this tight lie stuff all the time. But I think that's why you see this huge influx of short game here is because you can't get away with bad shots.
Yeah.
There's
I
no
think
accidentally hitting good shots.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is absolutely the first part of why around the green play is so predictive here, because the skill of chipping and pitching is magnified in basically every single way. And so first, let's talk for a moment just about why chipping into the green is so difficult. Basically, what it means is that as soon as the club makes contact with the ground is going to stop the club, or at least it's going to try to stop the club. If you're chipping down green and you hit the ground a centimeter behind the ball, the club is going to glide through and you're still going to make decent contact. Into the grain, you're just going to stop. You're going to chunk it. So then, as a player, afraid of chunking it, what do? You lift the club and you blade it through, right? Like that's what us knuckleheads would do. These guys are obviously really good, but it means they have to be that much more precise with their contact. And then these incredibly undulating greens, it means you have to be in control of your spin, your trajectory, your carry distance. Like every single thing has to be right, and they have to be all right at the same time. It's honestly a little bit similar to the putting in the sense that you can't just make putts here by having the correct line. You have to perfectly marry line and speed. Chipping and pitching around this place, you have to marry the trajectory, the carry distance, the spin. It all has to be right for you to really shine around the greens.
And let's even go a step further with the undulated greens of like the difference between great chippers and average to good chippers gets even more magnified with all the slopes and all of this green, because if you've got a super tight lie and you're into the green, you're kind of afraid of chunking it. I think everybody knows, you've done this, I've done this. Every good players, they tend to lean it a little bit more, hit it a little bit harder, kind of pull it a little bit. Well, your normal golf course that may be 10 or 15 feet long left, here it might be rolling down a big slope and to where you can't get the next one up and down. So It goes further than even just the noticeable skull or chunk.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's have some fun here. We've talked a bunch now about how important around the green play is. So let's talk about who the best around the green play players in the world are right now. Very interesting top three, like an extremely interesting top three. Why don't you throw out some names that you have, Justin, as guesses for who the top three are in short game?
Justin Thomas should be one.
He's close. He's not in the top three. I agree with you. Like, I mean, obviously JT has a phenomenal short game, and there have been a number of times in the last few years where I would have said it's the best short game in the world. It hasn't been as good this year, which is why.
But he's also hit it better this year. So
yeah, I mean, he's gained. Yeah, that's a good point. He's gaining fewer strokes around the green per round, partially because he's hitting more greens, so he just doesn't have as many opportunities to gain strokes. But even on a per shot basis, he hasn't been as good this year as he has in some years past. But if you want to say he's in the top three, like I might even say that. But in terms of what our strokes gained around the green estimate is, he's not in the top three right now. He's sixth. So like he's right there. But
because I also I'm sure he's not in these projections because he's a live guy, but I'll take Cam Smith's chipping as well against almost anybody. He's not gonna. He's what?
He's number two.
Oh, is he? So he works into the live. I mean, Cam Smith chips it as good as anybody in the world for sure. I would guess Scheffler's up there as well, and Hideki, the guys we've named. But Yeah, I still think one of the greatest shots that I've ever seen in my entire life was Cam Smith little pitch over the water after hitting at the water at the Players.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree with that. Scotty, like JT, hasn't been quite as sharp around the greens this year, so he's not in the top 3, but another guy that, like, if you ask me who do I trust the most on a 25-yard pitch shot into one of these difficult pin locations, he's definitely going to be up there for me. So don't hate that call. Hideki Matsuyama is number 1 at 0.3 expected strokes gained against this field, by the way, with his around the green play. Number 3 is Minwoo Lee, our guy, your guy. For those who don't know, Justin called the Minwoo Lee breakout at the Players a couple years ago. He's been awesome around the greens.
Yeah, and I don't even want to talk about this, but I will. So I was texting Alex last week, and I was like, man, or before Houston, I was like, it's Minwoo Lee week. Like, he's winning this week. And Alex agreed. And so I went straight in, placed a future, and we got down to the end. I was like, awesome, I'm going to win. So I went and checked on it. It was before Sunday's round maybe. And I went and I texted Alex and I said, well, I didn't win. I placed the future for the Masters and not for this week. So I have a Minwoo Lee Masters ticket. So I'm glad to hear that he's number 3 in short game.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he goes out and wins it for you. That's brutal. We've all been there. We've all done something like that where we thought we had a winner and then we realized, oh crap, I screwed this up or I screwed that up. So definitely understand where you're coming from there. But yes, this is a pretty good spot for Minwoo. I think it's really nice, by the way, to now see that he has won, because I do think there would have been a question. Like we've seen him actually contend at the Masters before because of his short game. There is one interesting note. I mentioned the fact that driving distance is less predictive than usual here. There have been 2 exceptions in the last 7 years or so, 2020 and 2023. The thing that those 2 years have in common is that there was a lot of rain and the course was soft. They've gotten some rain this week. We're recording here on Tuesday morning. Yesterday, Monday's practice round got rained out. So we definitely want to monitor just how firm or soft the golf course is coming into Thursday. The softer it is, the better that's going to be for Minwoo, because we have him tied with Bryson DeChambeau as the longest hitter in this field. So the softer it is, the more driving distance will matter, the better that is for Minwoo Lee. But regardless, around the green play is going to matter a bunch where Minwoo Lee shines. And it was really nice to see him actually play well with the irons for once, because that's the thing that's really holding back his projection the most. And as that goes up, if it's going to continue to trend up, Minwoo Lee has a chance to be one of the top 10 players in the world, I would say.
I've been saying that for years, that I thought that he did. So, yeah, I agree. And the other thing is here, anybody that hasn't been with us long, the high leverage shots at Augusta are real. Yeah. And he's one of the best long iron players that I can think of. So you kind of combine that together. I think it's a recipe for success. If we can continue to get the spike with the shorter clubs, it should be fun to watch.
All right, let's play another guessing game here. In our overall expected strokes gain numbers, we have Scotty first, Morikawa second, Rory third. I will note there, Rory's actually second in win odds. Just kind of an interesting thing there based on their projected volatility, and then also the fact that Rory has a little bit more of the skill of knowing how to win than Morikawa does. Beyond that obvious top 3, it is Justin Thomas who's 4th in expected strokes gained. Can you guess who's 5th? Because 5th was a bit of a surprise to me.
Well, if he wouldn't have played, I would say Oberg, but he's played so bad the last few weeks, it's probably dropped him out of that spot.
Yeah, he's actually way down there. We've been feasting on the worse than a top 20 or worse than a top 10 on Oberg, and it has been a very profitable bet over an underdog. So we'll probably go back to that one this week if it's available.
Yeah, he's just been so bad lately. I mean, but we know he randomly won, so we know that the spike weeks are definitely there, right? We know that he can. Yeah.
It's just a really bad fit for him, right? Like if driving is less important than usual and around the green play is more important than usual, and you can't gain a ton through approach and putting, distance and accuracy are his 2 strengths. he's a pretty average player in this field approach around the green and putting. So you take away his big advantage over the field and you actually diminish that advantage, it's going to be hard for him to contend. It speaks to just how well he played last year and just how prepared he is as an all-around player. But to your point, like he just hasn't been anywhere near as solid over the last couple months in the rest of his game as he was last year.
And I'm guessing you have Liv in here. So is it Neiman? Is he the next one on the list? He's definitely had the best year over there.
Rom is still the best live player. We have him like 0.01 out of the top 5. Hideki is also tied with Rom just outside of the top 5. So there's still a guy. He doesn't have a win this year, but he is playing well. That is now our 5th projected player. And I'll also mention he's projected 5th in part because of this course fit model. The fact that driving isn't as important this week does help him because he very much doesn't have the length that the rest of the elite players have.
Henley? I don't know who it could be. Like
great
Henley.
Great guess.
He's won this. He's won
not
this year.
Him. It's not him, but that is a great guess. Henley's close, by the way. Henley's about 0.1 behind. It's Shane Lowry.
Oh shit! Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean he's been kind of dynamite this year. 8th, 20th, 7th, 11th, 39th, 2nd cut at the Farmers. Those are his starts. He has gained strokes in every single event, even that missed cut at the Farmers. His approach play has been incredible. His short game has been good. He's been driving the ball quite well too. So like he's losing distance wise, but gaining so much accuracy wise, and accuracy also not as predictive this week. But it just means that like you really don't think that Lowry's going to make the mistake. He's going to consistently have opportunities with his approach play. And he's been so damn good with that approach play, gaining well over a stroke per round with his approach play this season, like way over a stroke per round with his approach play. Has actually been one of the best iron players in the world this season. Add in the really good short game. It's just about whether or not he makes putts. But get this, we have him at 4.4% to win. Let me see if he
we know he can win too. That helps. Like it helps when you're backing a guy that you know is going to have stones down the stretch.
He's available at 45 to 1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Second best number is 35 to 1. Absolutely hammer that 45 to 1 number if you have access to it. Run, don't walk to it. That is on DraftKings Sportsbook. So definitely one of my favorite plays. Also, by the way, like I'm even giving him some consideration in one and done. We'll talk more about one and done later, including some strategy discussion. The obvious strategy note when we get to the major championships is this the time to use live golfers? It's our only chance to use live golfers. By doing so, we also save the PGA Tour guys we want to use. But man, Shane Lowry might be like 0.1% on it. We are not doing very well in the one and done, so we may need to be a little bit contrarian here and hope for that huge win that way. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But what do you think? Should we get into the Rory stuff now?
Well, let's before we go there, let's go from there to another guy that we're both super high on that we talked to and go into the advantage of lefties. I think this is a really good spot to go into the guy. I mean, we both had already talked about him before we even started the show about Robert McIntyre and about what he can do this week, and I think we're in agreement that we really like him. Which everybody knows. We've kind of talked about him quite a bit, especially you. But let's go. Why don't you explain your thoughts and just the golf reasoning of why lefties are so successful at Augusta?
Let's use number 12 as the example. And as you said backstage to me, it's like this is kind of a theme around the entire golf course, the angle of the greens. But it's really obvious on number 12, and it's obvious in such a way or for such a hole that we all know what the 12th hole looks like. So what I want you to first do is think of the angle of the 12th hole in relation to the tee box. The front or the back of the left edge of the green is closer to the tee box than the front of the right edge of the green. So as you go from left to right, the green gets further and further away from you. Any pin location gets further and further away from you. As a right-handed player, when you miss right of your target, it means one of two things. Either you opened the club face, or you overspun the ball a little bit that direction. In either case, when you miss right, you likely miss a little bit short. And when you miss left, it means you shut down the club face and you're going to miss a little bit longer than you intended as well. As a right-handed player, that means, let's say you're aiming where Tiger famously always aimed, especially with that back right pin, the dead center of the bunker, dead center of the green, like 25, 30 feet left of the pin. If you miss right of that target, you're also missing a little bit short. Guess what? You're in the creek. If you miss left, you're also likely missing a little bit long. Guess what? You are on that hillside over the green. Now you have this really difficult up and down, or you might even be in the woods with a penalty stroke, something like that. As a left-handed player, if you aim in that exact same spot and the pin is back right, and you aim right over the middle of the bunker and you pull it 20 feet right, you're not in the creek because you're missing a little bit long instead of a little bit short. Now you're right next to the hole. If you miss a little bit left, now you're missing a little bit short, you're on the front part of the green. It fits, the angle of the green perfectly fits the dispersion of a left-handed player's shot pattern. And it completely contradicts the shot pattern and the dispersion of a right-handed player. And as you said, Justin, that can be seen around the whole golf course, not to the same degree and not where you get like woods for a righty and creek for a righty and green for a lefty all the way through. But it's just a lot easier for left-handed players because their misses are more favorable all around the golf course.
And we'll just go a little step further into the golf side of this, right? The stuff that we understand is that lie is also known to be not very even, right? So if you have slope, the toe dig of a righty is going to open the face and go right into the water. If it's a lefty, it heel digs, shuts the face, you're going to miss a long at worst. So it all goes into the same thing of like just the way that a golf course sets up. And it's a really interesting point. And I don't know that anybody's really gotten into too in depth about why that is. But I mean, like just thinking about just the dynamics of golf and the club, if the heel hits first, it shuts the club face, therefore it goes long. And now you're not in the creek, where a righty, you get the toe dig. Now you have a wide open face. You spin it into the water. I mean, we've even seen people righty off that slope get so much toe dig with such an open face, hit it short of the water when they were going for the green.
Yeah. And there's also an element of like, we're kind of getting into the Roy stuff now and Brandon Chambly's comments, but he talked about how we can obviously think of how many tee shots favor a right to left ball flight. And yes, that will help lefties a bunch because it means they get to hit cuts off those tees instead of draws, which are easier to control, which is why so many guys now prefer cuts. But then you get into the fairway, and because of the shape of the fairway, the slope of the fairway, and the shape of the greens, like think of 13, you have to bend the ball right to left off the tee, but now you're on a severe right to left lie, and the creek is in that front right portion of the green starts left and kind of goes around. So you want to be hitting a cut as a right-handed player into that green off of a severe draw lie. That's difficult to do. It's easier as a left-handed player to hit a draw off a cut lie than it is for a right-handed player to hit a cut off a draw lie. So you get that sort of advantage as well a number of times. 13 is not the only hole like that either. And it just means that like a left-handed player can play simpler golf around the golf course. I think that's the best way to put it. They can just play a simpler round of golf. It can feel like the golf course is easier because a lot of the time it is. And to that point, when you're watching Amen Corner this week, when you're watching number 12 in particular, just take notice of how much easier it seems for lefties to get the distance right on that 12th hole, while righties seem flummoxed. And a lot of that is just because they can miss either direction and still be right about the distance, where the right-handed player kind of has to hit his line to be right about the distance.
And you were talking about the draws and then the cuts or the fades. People have to understand that the old theory of draws go further than fades is completely gone now, right? Mm-hmm. Technology is set. You set your technology up, your whatever driver shaft and club head, to hit it the direction that matches your swing and hit it the direction you want to hit it. Mm-hmm. So there's everybody gets optimal launch and optimal spin as they want. So hitting draws and cuts is not a like proportional to distance anymore.
Yep.
It used to be, but now with the golf ball and then the technology of club, so you can throw that out the window. Don't think, oh, he's got to hit a cut here, so it's not going to go as far. That's just not the way it is.
Yeah, like I pretty much exclusively play a cut off the tee, and when I do try to hit a draw, it just looks like the ball's falling out of the sky right away because I can't spin it as much as I do on a left to right shot, and I need that extra spin because I purposely have a very low spin driver and driver shaft. So, yeah, 100% agree there. Let's get into the full comments now from Brandel Chambly and kind of talk through whether we agree or whether we think he's kind of just over analyzing this. So let's start by referencing the pressure point that he made, and that is that no player faces as much pressure throughout an entire golf season as Rory does when he gets to Augusta, which I think is true, but I also don't think it explains why he hasn't won, because I think Rory's perfectly capable of succeeding under that type of pressure.
Yeah, so I don't. So I would tend to agree with those comments now. I don't think it's always been that way. I don't think he ever showed that. I don't think he's ever been under as much pressure as he is now. Mm-hmm. I think that all started when he snap hooked it in the cabins on 10 mm-hmm. and didn't win whatever year that was. Well, I don't even remember what year that was, but that's when everybody's been like, oh, that was his chance to win. Why didn't he win? Why hasn't he won now? So yes, maybe this year as he got a little bit more pressure than anybody else. I think that's a recent thing, though. That's not a lifetime thing. But I also think, to your point and I'll let you get into this, I think he's probably the best equipped to win this year than he's ever been.
Yeah. Yeah. So beyond that, Brandel's points were that Rory's swing has flattened out over the years, which makes it harder for him to hit cuts. And like we just talked about, there are a lot of fairways hitting into greens where you need to hit a cut. We all think of how many right to left tee shots there are, but then in the fairway, you have to hit cuts into a lot of these greens. And that has been a little bit hard for Rory throughout the years. The other point he made is that there's a lot of like really important wedge play where you have to get line and distance right to have one of those rare birdie opportunities. Think of number 7 on the last day when the pin is down in that swale. A lot of guys are going to be making birdies there. It's a wedge. If you can't match that, first of all, like if you can't hit a good shot there, you might now make bogey because of how difficult that green complex is. But if you hit a good shot, you're making birdie.
And even spin control there too. Like mm-hmm. he's always struggled with spin control. So you got to add that into these greens as well. Mm-hmm.
Now, to Brandel's point, like this year, Rory has improved in both of those aspects. He's covering the ball more. We're seeing a lot more of an abbreviated finish from Rory on a lot of swings. And you can't have that abbreviated finish without what's called covering the ball, which helps you hit a cut. So in that regard, he's better. We're seeing a lot of those abbreviated finishes on his wedge play. His wedge play has been really good this year. So in all of those like very technical golf aspects, I do think Rory's more equipped to win this year than most. But I think Brandel's missing this like massive, obvious explanation, and that is Rory is one of, if not the greatest drivers of the golf ball in the history of the game. And Augusta National devalues distance and accuracy off the tee. Rory is one of the longest in the history of the game, and he's one of the most accurate in the history of the game off the tee. The fact that he can't win a golf tournament here because of his driving is a major, major obstacle. So many of his wins throughout his career, whether in majors or not, have come because he creates a massive advantage off the tee and then conserves that advantage throughout the rest of his bag. Here, he has to win from the rest of his bag instead of the driver, which is historically he has not done a lot of, but he has done this year. He absolutely won from the rest of his bag at the Players' Championship this year. He drove the ball poorly, was exceptional everywhere else. So, like we said, he's more well-rounded this year. He's more equipped to win this year than I think he has at any other point in his career, including the year that he blew it, because I just think like his game is at a much more mature, well-rounded spot now than it's ever been before.
Yeah, and he can take advantage of being the best driver of the golf ball in the world too, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I know that the model devalues it, but it's still
an advantage. Yeah,
yeah. No, I mean, it's still a lot easier to win from there, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll be surprised if he's not in contention. I mean, I really will. Like, I don't see an end game where he doesn't doesn't at least compete.
Yeah, and I think part of that too, by the way, is like we say driving is diminished here a little bit, and it's harder to create the advantage. Part of that is because there are fewer tee shots where you can create an advantage off the tee that's quite impactful. But there are certain holes where you can, like 13 again. And when you think of the shape of 13 and having to hit this like towering draw over the trees to give yourself as short of an approach as possible, like that is Rory to a tee, right? So Rory gets to that tee box and it feels like, hey, I'm only going to have X amount of chances to really create an advantage off the tee this week. I have to do it here. I have to push the envelope. I have to try to hit that perfect drive. Well, then what happens? Maybe he makes a bad swing. Maybe he finally makes a mistake and misses left in the trees. We've seen him, playing from over there in the creek and in the woods left on 13 before. Maybe this year he gets there and he doesn't feel like he has to hit a perfect tee shot. Maybe he dials back to a 3-wood and just says, I'm going to make my 4 regardless. I don't need to gain a ton here. I'm already leading by 2 or things like that. So I just think like everything about his game this week or this year will allow him to maybe even take a simpler approach, kind of like lefties have a simpler approach around this golf course, and finally break through. I'm not calling a Rory win. We have him at 7.7% to win. Let's all remember one of the reasons why he doesn't have a green jacket is because it's incredibly difficult, no matter who you are, no matter how much better you are than everybody else, to actually win a golf tournament and in particular a green jacket. So it's going to be very difficult for him to do, but he's more equipped to do it this year than ever before.
Yeah, I agree. And you had a great point there. Like this, it's hard. I get nobody, like people are always like, oh, and it's also like, you're also trying to ask, obviously one of the best players in the world, but you're trying to ask him to have his A game on this specific week every single year. And that's just unreasonable.
Mm-hmm. Well, and think about that. Like we're saying this is the most equipped he's ever been, and he's at 7.7. So like that basically means our expectation is that Rory should win a green jacket once out of every 15 years. So the fact that he hasn't won yet, it's kind of like it's basically right in line with expectations. If he wins one, it's going to be exactly what we should have expected. So yeah, it's incredibly difficult to win a green jacket. Just because a lot of great players have doesn't mean that every great player will. And that could include Rory, but I really hope he gets it done. I think it would be an absolutely phenomenal story. Anything else before we touch on some other DFS betting, and then maybe we get into even some underdog stuff before we talk one and done and get out?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go. I was looking at Rory's number for day one is over under 70.5 at underdog. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait on course conditions to see, but that immediately, usually they generally have it playing a little bit easier earlier in the week. So
yeah, that, by the way, is something that I very much enjoy about underdog. I gotta see if I can still do this. All right. Let's see here.
I mean, that's a full stroke difference than.
Yeah. I very much like the fact that underdog posts like more things than usual for these major championships, including like we'll get over-unders on the front 9 or higher lower on the front 9. We'll get it for a back 9. We'll get it for like 11, 12, and 13, maybe 10 through 12, whatever. So we're going to get a lot of different things to choose from. You can see the strokes here, as you said, like there's a big advantage for Scotty in the projection. I don't think they haven't added the bad guys yet. In the last few years, we've really feasted on like Sandy Lyle over bogey on the first hole, things like that. Right? So we'll wait for those to come out. We've smashed Phil Mickelson over on bogeys. Although Phil's actually playing decently well, so maybe we'll talk about Phil too. But here's where I want to go, because we've been smashing these 20 finishing position bets kind of all season. They don't have a ton out just yet that are these that are two-way options where you can choose better or worse. Most of these you can only choose better. But these are quite interesting. So like, let's look at Scotty, for example. We're getting 1.04x for a worse than a top 5. His top 5 odds are 37.3%. That's a 63% win probability for a 1.04x bet. Like, that's a really strong one. So I like that. Bryson, worse than 10.5. Let's see. Where do we have Bryson for a top 10? We have him at, oh boy, that's really low. Like, that's crazy low. We've got him at 14.8% for a top 10, despite the fact that it's not like he's way, way behind in projection. He's just not at the level of the guys around him, like Morikawa, Rahm, Schauffele, JT, Hideki. And that makes sense too, right? Like the extreme version of Rory is Bryson in the sense that all of his strokes come off the tee. He is actually projected to lose in approach and around the green to this field, barely projected to gain putting against this field. Hasn't played well on live at all this year, by the way. I manually boosted him up because of his performance in the majors last year. Like he's overed to an even more extreme extent. So very much like the worse on Bryson as well. Anything else really catch your eye here, Justin?
So I saw something interesting to me is that they're offering, albeit at pretty low odds, some of these guys to make the cut.
Yeah.
Like you're not, but there was one that stood out, right? Like Minwoo Lee, you get 0.7 or 0.69 to just make the cut, right? Like you can combine enough guys at low odds that I would argue this is the easiest cut of the year to make.
Mm-hmm. Look at that. Max Homa, even odds just to make the cut because he's been so bad. Let's see, where are Homa's odds to make the cut? I also think the 0.87 on Phil is pretty interesting given how well he's played and how well he plays at Augusta. Where are you, Max Homa? There you are.
I mean,
we have Homa at 30.1% to make the cut. So maybe we take Homa to miss the cut. That would be pretty strong, actually. Might give some consideration to that one. But yeah, I think like one of the themes you'll notice here, by the way, is that we're finding a lot more value betting against guys than betting on them. And I think that makes a lot of sense because if you're underdog, you're obviously in some degree getting these odds from sports books and what the market is dictating on the sports books. But remember, the sports books are almost universally offering one-way markets. So they can juice it. And if you take a juiced like top 20 number and you now give the opposite direction for that opposite direction has been juiced in a good way for us. So we should always look for these worse and the miscuts. We're just far more likely to find value in that. I also want to make one more point here. I'm not going to name this person, but I did see someone on Twitter recommend something like, let's see, it was all like finishing position. It was something like Rory to finish better, Bryson to finish better, and I don't know, Morikawa to finish better or something like that. And I want to just call attention to something. If Rory and Bryson each finish in the top 5 and top 10, now Morikawa is facing everybody else for just 8 remaining spots. Like this is a horribly, horribly correlated type of play. So just please keep that kind of thing in mind and don't do this sort of thing because you are just lighting your money on fire. Can it hit? Yes. Is it going to hit? If you make like 10 of these, are you going to hit one? Probably. But goodness gracious, you are just asking for like a negative 50% ROI on the week if you're doing this kind of thing. So please, please, please don't do that. And notice too, like if you're flipping it around, if you're going worse on these, you're not really running into the same issue because you're not cutting the number down from 10 to 8, which is literally taking away 20% of that top 10 equity. There are 90 some guys in the field. You're turning it from like 70 or from 80 to 78 spots, and you're losing like 3% non-top 10 equity. So the correlation issue doesn't work in both directions. And be careful about these picks that you're making.
And this is your huge advantage in all sports, right? You get these guys that tout all this stuff on Twitter about, oh, look at all these, I won this 20 leg or whatever, but they're all overs. Yeah, you did it one time, but that's not going to happen. If you bet over points for the same 3 guys in the same game, like you're only going to score so many points.
Yeah. Yeah, you run into some correlation issues very quickly. Decent time to shout out the fact, by the way, on our underdog, I have a personal underdog tracker, which you can find at FT and Fantasy. You can also find in my own personal Discord now. We're up 174 units since the start of the NBA season, a 27% ROI. We have done it in NFL. We've done it in NBA. We've done it in PGA. And now we're also crushing MLB. So we're finding the edge no matter what the sport. And this underdog game, it's very, very beatable. So give those a look if you haven't just yet. All right, Justin, time to talk someone and done. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, the easy is to find a live guy, right? That we like the most, that we think has a chance to win. I would
remember what we did last year.
I don't remember what we did here.
We went Cam Smith, and I'm very much. I could very much get behind the Cam Smith decision again. The thought process is pretty simple. We know that a lot of people are going to go to live guys, and we know the live guys that people want to go to. They want to go to Rahm. They want to go to Bryson. Now they might want to go to Neiman and Hatton as well, although those guys didn't play quite as well last week. They've kind of been like the two best players. Sergio as well has been, no pun intended, surging this year. So he might be pretty popular. But the course fit, the best course fit of all these guys, the guy who loses in both distance and accuracy off the tee and is just phenomenal with his irons around the green play and putting, is Cam Smith. So you get the advantage of using a live guy, but also finding a contrarian guy. And you get Cam Smith at his by far best course fit for any major championship. Because remember, once you get to the US Open and the PGA Championship, where driving matters so damn much, it's going to be significantly tougher for Cam Smith to ever contend in one of those than it will be for him to contend here, which is why he's got 4 top 10s in the last 7 years.
And I think he was only 1% last year too, or something silly. Yeah. He was really low owned. Mm-hmm. That would be my first choice of where to go. I really like your Lowry call if we really wanted to do something different.
I think that, so I have 2 entries. We have our joint entry and then I have a personal one. I'm doing better in my personal one in large part because I was actually able to use Minwoo Lee when we both thought that he had a great chance to win, whereas you and I had already used him in our joint entry, so we couldn't. I think there I'm going to use Cam Smith. I kind of think because you and I are so far behind and we need miracles to happen for us. I think I want to go to Lowry because I think Cam Smith probably going to be, 2 to 4%, something like that. And I think Lowry has a chance to be 0.2%. So I think I lean Lowry for our joint entry, but I'm good with both for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is a deal. The only trouble with that is if we don't use Cam Smith, we are not using him this year. Mm-hmm. We just lose him completely for the year. Whereas Lowry, we could
use him at the Open Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same goes for Lowry, right? We could use Lowry do we take advantage of Lowry's form as of right now of how good he's playing and just say, hey, this is what we're going to do because he's in such good form?
Yeah, but also at the Open Championship, he won't be 0.2% because he's already an Open Champ winner, especially if there's weather that week. People love to play Lowry when it's windy and rainy. So we would lose the fact that we're getting Lowry at such low ownership if we waited for the Open Championship to use him.
I think as of now, I'm good with, like you said, we're so far behind. We got to do something so different that we could try it. And just the only thing that I know it's going to happen is Cam Smith's going to win because we're 1 year late or 1 week early on every single person that we ever play. So
true.
That's good. If you have Cam Smith in your other, if you have your Cam Smith in your other entries, so you can still have something to root for him when he wins.
All right. Well, this has been a blast, guys. Please, please, please like the channel. We got absolutely nothing here, right? So like the channel, subscribe to the channel. It will help us immensely get this thing going again. We're going to try to do this each week. I don't know if we'll have the opportunity to do so. Maybe we'll have to do something just like the big events, majors, signature events, something like that. But we're going to try to do this as often as possible. And we're going to be able to do it more often the more support you guys give us. So like the show, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even drop some comments as well. Get some discourse going in the comments. You can tell us your thoughts on Rory. Does he get it done? You can tell us your thoughts on the lefties. Who are your favorite lefties? Are you stacking lefties this week? Anything that you can think of, throw down in those comments. It will help us out so much. Thank you, and we will catch you next time.